kind of how do you package an intangible experience? And he'd researched all these different names, and in that list was Red Letter Days. When you go out into business, everyone's kind of waiting for you to fail. That sense of devastation when I lost Red Letter Days and feeling like quite suicidal actually. There's this double-page spread called Red Letter Monster. All of these people I thought were my friends. They were like slagging me off on this tabloid thing. I've just had an email in from the BBC. They're doing a new show called Dragon's Den, and they want to know if you want to be on it. And I'm like, yeah. That first video I did, it was called Rachel Speaks Out. It was just like a 27-minute rant. It got 250,000 views, went viral, and then it was deleted.
Rachel, welcome. Thank you for trolling out and seeing us. Good to see you again as well. Nick, good to see you again, mate.
Yeah, always here. Nice to see you again as well, Rachel.
So look, straight off the bat, how would you define greatness, Rachel? What are the characteristic traits you would say that makes someone great?
Well, I'd say my views changed over the years because when I was younger and very much in the corporate world, it was all about winning and, much more that kind of dragon competitiveness. But now I'm a bit older and I'm a mentor and I'm very much more kind of shamanic with life. I'd say that it's much more about people who have found their soul purpose and who are really aligned with the truth of who they were born to be. So it could be being in business, but it could be following your heart, following a dream, a talent. And my observation with people once they find that groove and that soul purpose is that life starts to flow and magic starts to show up effortlessly. So quite often in business, if things are a real struggle and you're pushing and nothing's working, it's kind of the universe telling you you're not on track. And adjusting and adapting. And then you hit that sweet spot where suddenly life becomes effortless and it's just fun.
I like that.
So having said that then, and you've been on that journey and it's given you in front of us today to give us that answer. Let's go back then. So let's go back to your early beginnings before we talk about, what it is you've achieved in business and your entrepreneurial journey itself. So I know from obviously meeting you previously, it'll be good for our viewers to hear, so you were born and raised in Essex, and I believe your father electrician, his own shop, Elnaugh & Sons, am I right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
In Chelmsford. So tell us about your upbringing. Tell us about, was there any, what was your upbringing like at an early age? What inspired you? Maybe any pivotal moments that sent you on that journey?
Well, it was great growing up above my dad's shop because I was always down there in the shop with my dad, and he was an amazing man, and I just observed how just customers came and he would just be he was so generous in there was no attachment to making money. So he would help people and he'd give them advice, and if they bought something, great, and if they didn't, they didn't. And he did things like repairs and, rewiring people's houses. So he had a great reputation in the local community, and it was the go-to place. If anything electrical, people would come in. So I think I learned a lot from my dad, just observing and just osmosing that great business is about giving, ultimately. And when you give great service, great products, create great experiences, then everything flows back to you, and the money will show up, and opportunities and invitations. So I did learn a lot from my dad, and I think I'm actually a very creative person. It just so happened that business was my medium. So some people are artists and paint is their medium, or it might be sculptors, but I think that I was very creative. And that actually business was my medium, and I love creating things, and whether it's experiences or businesses or products, events, mentoring programs, or writing books,
So would you say, listening to that, would you say your dad was a big influence on the impacts that went on in your early years of your life then, to then ultimately get the confidence and step out and do more?
Yeah, so it was kind of, I think when you're around business, it's kind of in your blood that it's inevitable that you'll do your own business. Although I went to a very kind of traditional girls' grammar school where it was very much that career path of get a degree, then go on a management training program, work your way up the corporate ladder. So when I left school, I didn't get into university, but I did get a job as an office junior, and I worked my way up in accountancy and ended up like in the 80s at Arthur Andersen, which was then the top accountancy firm in the world when I was 21. And actually that was a brilliant training because I had 7 years of accountancy and finance training. So when you do go into business, if you're able to read accounts, and you can sort of translate creative ideas into a spreadsheet. You don't have a vision for a business or an event or anything, but you can actually make it into a spreadsheet, and you can kind of work out the variables of what if this number of people turn up, and will it be profitable, and yeah. So it's very good actually. I think when you go into business to have some good solid training behind you.
Foundations.
So many people go in, launch in, don't have the basic knowledge, and the percentage failure rate is massive, especially for women. It's about 90%.
Wow.
Failures.
I know you've mentioned there that you went into the education side and you went into the accounting side. Was your father? I know you mentioned that. Yes, he was a pivotal role. Did he actually push you towards running your own business yourself, or is that something that you more enlightened by yourself?
Well, no, he always used to say, don't go into business, you'll create a rod for your own back. And I remembered that. So that was very much my thinking, my feeling when I created a business. I didn't want it to be a small business that totally depended on me. I wanted to create something scalable that had a life of its own, so that I could have a whole team, So I wanted to do something, I guess, a lot bigger, and that wasn't just me running a shop, if you know what I mean. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah. Because my dad's business was way more than just a shop, but I saw how it did trap him, and he never had a day off ill.
Okay.
And it was very consistent, going down at 8 a.m. to brief the workmen, opening the shop at 9, having an hour closed for lunch, and closing at 6 p.m. every day of his life.
Sacrificing a lot of his time. So it was very time dependent.
Completely. Yeah.
So where did that ambition come from then, to be able to think about a scalable business? Because I know from obviously running my business and looking where I'm trying to head with it and scale it and grow it and taking on teams, and we could get into that later, like running a team is completely different, right? And I believe team wins games, i.e. same in business, you win in business. But what gave you the ambition, the drive, and that bit to say, if I'm going to start a business, then it's going to be fighting for championships, if you like, in football. It's going to be winning the Premier, rather than fighting relegation and just having a steady away, comfort zone, earn the salary, having a bit of freedom. Like, where's that ambition come from, though, to really say, I'm going to scale this thing?
Yeah. So a mixture of things. I mean, I'm a dragon in the Chinese scheme.
Dragon year this year, right, as well?
It's the dragon year. It's the wood dragon. I'm a 1964 wood dragon. And dragons are like larger than life kind of mythical creatures. So that dragon energy is already kind of quite visionary and expansive. And I think I always was a bit of a daydreamer, of kind of like, that kind of fantasy daydreams of anything's possible. And I think that combined with when I was a teenager and sort of in the late 70s and the 80s, all of these amazing women were creating their own businesses, like Anita Roddick. She created Body Shop in 1976. And then Debbie Moore floated Pineapple. She was the first woman to float on the stock exchange. I think that was in the 80s. And you had all of these incredible women who were creating businesses. And then obviously Margaret Thatcher and that whole enterprise, Tories were very different. Conservative Party was very different back in the 80s with Thatcher. And there was a real sense of like, you could do anything you wanted. So I think that I was growing up amidst that kind of backdrop of a bit like the swinging 60s, where if you were in music, it was like in the 1980s, if you wanted to do business. So when you was working the accounts and moving into now, if we talk about Red Letter Days and how you created that, before we get into how the Red Letter Days moment happened and when you had that moment of thinking, right, this could be a business, what are the times when you were working the accountancy or previous jobs before that breakthrough where you was, how can I put it? Because you're getting a salary from a job basically, aren't you? And then you've got a dream to make that happen.
what's that transition and what's going on in the head between of that moment of thinking, well, this is an opportunity because I'm being a sponge in this workplace. People are giving me advice.
Yeah.
I could potentially, grow within this business. What gave you then the cutaway to say, right, maybe not. I'm going to now probably put my focus towards wanting to start a business, wanting to grow, because entrepreneurs are crazy, right? They are. Like, it's a lonely world. So what give you, and even today's world, it's much easier to get advice online and see, like, the struggles that a lot of entrepreneurs see. And you mentioned there a few people who you aspire to and who, like, give that kind of motivation to start a business. But you probably never even knew that stepping into the entrepreneurial world, that those times, that it could be difficult to do so. So were it more just passion to start a business, see how it goes, or?
Yeah, well, I think even when I went into accountancy, because bear in mind, I didn't get into any of the universities I applied to. I was rejected from them all. And so I kind of took that job kind of out of desperation, just as an office junior, originally, I was just filing and making coffee. Yeah. But I really got, like, if you're enthusiastic and say yes, like, yeah, let me do more, give me something more challenging. And then I did a correspondence course in my own spare time. I paid for it myself and I passed my first exams. So I already got that sense of, like, effort and reward. And then when I got that job at Arthur Andersen, now bear in mind, that was the top accountancy firm in the world, and most of their intake were Oxford, Cambridge graduates. And there was I, 21. All of my friends from school, they'd all gone to university. They were just coming out. And I actually got that job through my own efforts because I'd qualified in taxation. And so there was a tremendous excitement about, like, working for that huge firm. And, like, there were clients like Brian Ferry and Joan Collins. And so it was kind of quite exciting. So, and I had, I was doing the taxation for, like, Sir Terence Conran, who created Habitat, which became Storehouse Group. So there was a lot of inspiration. And I think it doesn't matter where you start, because it's like if you just get in, just start working, say yes, show up, enthusiastic, kind of life will take you. It's like you're jumping in the river.
Does that come from a little bit of rejection, though? Like you said, you got rejected from 5 universities to do what you wanted to do.
Are you proving yourself wrong or someone else wrong? Like, where's that come from? Like,
well, I just think if you're really blocked in life, like I said in the beginning, if you think, I'll do this, but life is blocking you, it's kind of a sign, because you can get really dejected and demotivated, right? But if you change tack, it's like life will take you where you need to be. Because I suspect that if I had gone into university and I'd done a history of art is what I wanted to do, something completely different, I would have had a completely different life trajectory. Probably, I don't know, working in the National Portrait Gallery or Tate Modern or something, and just having a nice job doing paintings, or I don't know. So it's almost like there was a destiny that life was wanting me to follow. Yeah, I love that idea.
Never the thought of what if then? I know you'd never know if you did go down the art history route. Would you say that?
But equally the same thing with the whole Red Letter Days journey, because I was 24 when I started that. And there was a point in that where, like, everything was starting to collapse, and it was like the most terrible time of my life. But looking back, I realise now, you can't see it at the time, but I realised I had to let go of that to allow more things, a different path to reveal itself. So I think going with the flow is really important in life. It's like trusting there's a higher intelligence that is infinite wisdom that is urging you to kind of align to your soul purpose, which is how I started.
So speaking of Red Letter Days, when you start, let's dive into that. So what sparked the inspiration to start Red Letter Days?
Yeah, so what had happened was I'd worked my way up in Arthur Andersen, and I got to a point where it was becoming really kind of, my hourly rate was quite high, and I wasn't doing compliance work. I was doing tax law, which is very dry and detailed, like researching legislation, and I kind of knew it wasn't the career for me. So I just went off traveling. And when I came back, I went to America, and I kind of hired a car with a friend, drove across America, which was an incredible adventure. But now I thought, I just got to get back and do something. So when I got back, I just took a little part-time, like freelance job in accountancy, like 20 quid an hour or something. And I was just freelancing, doing taxation. And one of the clients was this little funny company called Scrooge and Marley, which was like a gift card company that sold experiences. And they still do them, actually. Sometimes you buy a card and there's a little voucher that you can send off for an experience. So it was this kind of, it was a nice idea, but the execution was terrible. They were making losses and it wasn't going anywhere. But it was kind of like, this is interesting. So I kind of had this seed of an idea, but I could see that the execution, it just wasn't working. So sometimes ideas, like if you can have an idea, but it's the execution of it, right? That is the key. So I had this thought for like, what do you give the man who has everything? And my dad was very difficult to buy for. And I kind of gave him a very beautiful gift of going to see England play India at Lord's, because he was really into cricket, but I couldn't give him the tickets. So I had to create this kind of box of clues. And it was a great gift, and it was an experience. So it's kind of, how do you package an intangible experience?
Nice.
So I had all of these kind of ideas, and I happened to be living at the time with a guy who worked for the creative company Imagination, and I was telling him about this idea, and he came back next day without me asking, and he'd researched all these different names that I could call this potential business, and things like Dreams Come True and Wishing Well. And in that list was Red Letter Days. And it was, you know, when you've got a great name, because you just get this heart expansion of like, yes, that's brilliant. Red Letter Days. And I can put the gifts in a red letter. So our red letter became a kind of iconic packaging, a bit like a Tiffany boxes for jewellery. Because in the red letter could have been anything from like trekking with llamas to a trip into space, you know. So I think once you get a concept, once you get a brand and an idea, everything starts to coalesce, because all this thought energy kind of focuses in on a concept. And so I was just like amazed. And I just remember very symbolically that night, it was actually the 4th of July. And fireworks were going off over Tower Bridge, because he lived on a warehouse apartment on the river in Rotherhithe. And it was kind of like this amazing firework display. So next day was 5th of July. That was when I went into the city. This is before you could do it online. I went into the city and I founded the company on the 5th of July, 1989, you know. So, and it took, you know, a good 18 months of like really hard work
yeah.
to get the formula right, because nothing was working.
So what challenges, when you say nothing was working, what challenge were you facing that 18 month? Because during that 18 month, and I've been guilty of this in the past, before I got my successful business what it is today, I would pack up shop. I've done that before. My missus told me when I started the business I have today, she went, I was in that point where even today's business, I was ready to give up on it at one point. Not that I didn't believe in it, just that I was getting to the point of doing the same things over and over again. And that's where I realised the gold is now. And I stopped digging for a moment, and I pack up the spade, if you like, and throw it away. And it's like, it's literally there. You're doing the right thing. You're on the right.
Yeah.
And I've only just understood that now, 5 years on, and had that breakthrough. So when you're in that 18 month between it going, you know, boom, like it did, and becoming that great iconic brand that it is in Britain, what's going on in Rachel's head? What hard points did you find during that 18 months? Like, tell me about that.
Well, the number one thing was getting money, because we couldn't get backing from the banks. And in the end, because I'd been in taxation, I actually set it up as a business expansion scheme company, which was a Margaret Thatcher thing, where basically anyone who invested got 100% tax relief.
Okay.
Yeah, so my family put in the money, and friends and family, and it was only 25 grand, so not a huge amount. So that was number one thing. The second thing was I didn't have a clue about marketing, so I wasted most of that money on a brochure which was clunky and not very attractive, and adverts that didn't work. And I was really, the breakthrough moment was actually asking for help, because I was still freelancing, and I was saying to my boss, you know, I'm trying to set up this business, but I just can't seem to get it working. I know it's a great idea. And he said, go and see Barry Davis. who was one of my clients, who was a marketing designer, a designer and a marketeer. And I went along to see him, and I was so lucky because he took me under his wing, and he just completely redesigned everything and redesigned the logo, our literature. And it taught me that great marketing is worth its weight in gold.
Absolutely.
But it was such a wrench to actually, we'd had to dump like 10,000 brochures. And that's the thing. And I quite often, when I'm doing mentoring assignments, people will call me in, and really it's a similar thing. Their brand's a disaster, their literature's a disaster, but because they've invested a lot of money in it, they're so attached to it emotionally that they can't dump it.
Yeah.
And they just keep flogging a dead horse, basically. So I really feel this is an important point in business. You've got to be prepared to adjust and adapt and test and trial and tweak and keep going with that, because one day you will get the formula right. And when you get that formula right, it's like the floodgates open.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what happened with Red Letter Days. When we did what he suggested, and we essentially relaunched, and I had to get my first husband to back this. But it was such a great gamble, because literally we went from the phone not ringing to 2 phones ringing non-stop all day long. And it was just like, wow, and we're off. And then the business acquired this momentum, so our next big problem was operations, because actually managing all these orders, I mean, literally working right through to midnight. I mean, these are the days where you had to phone for a credit card authorization. So just sit there for an hour authorizing all these credit cards on the phone, and it was insane.
Don't realise how easy we've got it nowadays, do we? It's very quick and easy.
So that's the thing. But once momentum starts going, then of course once you've got, I mean, you all know there's 3 legs to a business stool. Once the sales and marketing is sorted, that's the key one, because then you've got the money to be able to backfill with operations and staff. And
that's where I kind of got lost. And I think so what I learned is I used to look at even people like yourself, Red Letter Days and other businesses, and think, how they're doing 5, 6, 7 figures. There must be a shiny fucking unicorn prancing about in the business, sprinkling glitter. And then I realised, one of my mentors, I spoke to him, he said, Paul, you're doing all the right things. He said, all it is, you've got your marketing sold, your positioning's right, you're in front of the right people, you're now fulfilling that role, and you're driving sales. That will bring in money, i.e. revenue, and then you look at that money that you've got, which is giving you good cash flow, and say, right, where are the areas that are the bottlenecks, i.e. operations, and you place it there. Over time, it'll free up your time, a team will come on board, and the basic work you did, they'll now do the basic work. You now free up your time to do. And it made sense. I went, there's nothing really different that I need to be doing when I know that it's working to run with it. Only thing that I need to change is in here. It's the mindset. But the biggest thing, I want to go back to what you said there, which I think is super important, that business owners don't really think about, is that we get so selfish when it's our business, where we think we can do it all on our own, and we don't want to ask for help, and we don't want to get a mentor, or we don't feel like we need, because we feel like we've already got it solved. I say to everyone, please, if you know that you've got something special and you've got that drive and determination to make a business happen, please invest into yourself, into your business, and listen to others who've done it, because I guarantee you, even if they're telling you to do something, it's going to trigger a prompt that might actually go, well, actually, what you said there makes sense, but I could also do it this way too. So would you agree having a mentor in business is super important also? Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of ego. And, when you go out into business, it's like tall poppy syndrome. So everyone's kind of waiting for you to fail in a way, unspokenly. Because your friends and your family, that'll never work. Oh, look at him.
I've had this conversation many times.
And so there's a thing going on in the background, and then there's you, like, here I am, I'm in business, but the sales aren't showing up, the money's not showing up, it's failing, and you don't want to admit it, and you want to put a brave face. It's fine. So it takes quite a lot to actually say, I need help, and to actually go to someone and say, look, could you help me? So I think you need to have a little bit of humility, because there is this thing of fake it till you make it. But I think actually honesty, integrity, transparency, asking for help is an important thing.
Especially in today's world, because everything's online anyway, especially in my world with marketing, sales, and people see through this. They see that through that
Yeah.
persona. I mean, look,
People respond to vulnerability as well. When
absolutely.
you say, "Look, I'm really struggling. Could you help me? Could anyone help me here?" And you'll be amazed.
That's
at the
how we got talking.
tsunami.
Yeah,
That's how we
Yeah.
got talking with
Like, I'm
my
really
business.
struggling. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think people really appreciate vulnerability and humility.
I think that's important. I said, again, you know, I say to everyone, look, I know I swear a lot. I'm doing much better on this podcast, by the way.
I know you're doing very well.
I do swear a lot, but it's more from a passionate point of this thing than just me being me. And
Yeah.
I used to pretend to be someone else and not open up and show my vulnerabilities. But I feel like how my clients' business has grown, like Nick was saying then, is trying to relay that message onto them and saying, look, be who you are and speak your truth.
Yeah.
You get so caught up in a business where you don't speak your truth, where you're trying to think what are other people going to like. And as soon as you think that route, I guarantee you'll only think that for a certain amount of time, then you'll go a different route in it. So just speak your truth for what it is.
Yeah.
Speak from here, feel it from here, and everything, I agree, would fall into shape. What would you say to someone is if you could put all that together in a sentence, what would you say is the harsh reality of entrepreneurship? Like, what is because people want to get into it, but what is the harsh truth about being an entrepreneur? Like, I think it's lonely, and I think you need to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I spoke about in the last podcast now where I said, if you're sitting and the flames are getting closer, you've got to feel that heat and say, you know what, I'm comfortable in being in that fucking heat. So what would you say is the harsh reality of being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Well, to me, it's a roller coaster ride. So the highs are amazing, but the lows are really, really low. I mean, I just remember that sense of devastation when I lost Red Letter Days and feeling like quite suicidal, actually.
What happened there? How did that come around?
When
It started to get you on that low, what happened? What was the pivotal moment that it started to downfall?
Yeah, well, God, it's a bit of a long story, but I think the thing is in business, you know, when a business is doing really well and like we were making £1 million profit a year and we were growing and we were like a market leading brand and it was kind of everything's great, you kind of think you've got the Midas touch and you just want to keep, you know, if I just kept turning that sausage machine and making £1 million a year profit, that's a very nice business, thank you very much. But of course, we can never leave it at that. We have to push it and see how far we could take it. And the big mistake for me was actually bringing the management consultants in. And there was, you know, that promise of like, yeah, you'll be like a high street brand and you can go from like 10 million to 100 million and all of those kind of things. So, and they parachuted in, you know, lots of project managers. And then they said to me, well, maybe you need a proper chief executive who can implement the plan. And I thought, actually, they're probably right because I don't actually know what I'm doing. I'd kind of got it to, I don't know, 10 million turnover and £1 million profit. And I just got it there on passion and just like, you know, resourcefulness. So that was when things started to really unravel because the culture changed from being like really entrepreneurial and fast and amazing fun to this kind of corporate, almost like a pyramid structure with all this big board of directors and this chief executive who'd come from a big corporation who was brilliant at spending money but not very good at making it. And so things started to unravel fast because we didn't meet the increased sales targets, but the spend had increased massively. We also didn't have a strong finance director. So there were a lot of waves hitting the ship. And then we were bonded by our bank. Our credit card takings were bonded. So I just learned such a hard lesson that whoever controls the money has all the power. So we had 3.3 million cash at bank. But Barclays bonded us. We weren't allowed to touch the money. And they forced us into administration. And then they basically sold the business to Peter and Theo, my fellow dragons, for $250,000. And they actually gave the 3 million bond to them, the bonded 3 million to them. They they took 500,000 fee out of the money. It was complete corporate mugging. And then the 300,000 cash at bank, that actually went to the administrators. So I really learned, I really saw from that, there's a very dark side to business, big corporations. It's ruthless and they are like, it's almost like there's sharks in an ocean that are looking to gobble up entrepreneurial success stories. So if you've got a market leading brand that's got 3.3 million cash at bank, there's a lot of people looking at that and saying, "Oh, I want that," and so and they know how to destroy you.
That kind of leads me into my question that I ask most people that have done really, really well is, when you start to do well, people want to come into that circle.
Yeah.
People want to be around you.
Absolutely.
Again, why you're sat here, because we want to hear your story. We don't want the financial side from it. We want to hear your story to try better ourselves in our journeys.
Yeah.
How do you decide who you let into your life, and how do you decide which ones are there to take, and which ones are to give?
Well, this is the thing, because of course you think that everyone's there because they like you and love you, and that they're not just there for the money. So of course that when Red Letter Days was forced into administration, and I had to put it into administration. It was a bit like kind of giving your baby away for adoption or something.
Yeah.
But I had to do it because like there were the staff back at the office. They'd had to like bolt the doors to keep the like bailiffs out, because once someone puts in a winding up order, it's like a free for all. With any creditor can like come and just take your stuff basically. So I was in a lawyer's office. So it was really, really tough time. But to get back to your point, that like the next thing, of course, I'd just been on Dragon's Den. So suddenly all of these journalists, I mean, the Daily Mail put a journalist in the pub next door to Red Letter Days, and anyone who would talk about me, he would buy them a drink to talk about me. So there's this double page spread called Red Letter Monster, where all of these people who'd come to my parties and drank champagne and I thought were my friends, they were like all slagging me off on this tabloid thing. And then ITV Tonight with Trevor McDonald did an Exit the Dragon special, like a 1 hour documentary. And again, seeing all these people, like suppliers that I'd made hundreds of thousands of pounds for, that got rich on the business, staff who had well paid people were all there, telling their story, and it was just such a.
It's hard not to take all that on board.
Well, I mean, it was such a betrayal, and so I think now I'm much less open. And I'm much more cautious about allowing people kind of into my inner circle.
I said that to my brother-in-law, started up his own business, and I said, the first thing you'll find out is who your real friends are.
Absolutely.
Because I spoke about, he didn't get it at the time, but he now gets it now. Like, every event that he's done with his business, I've been there. Even when I've not got that extra bit of cash, I'll make sure it goes to support him, or I'll bring people there. The amount of friends that he's had that have just not turned up to one event. Yeah. Like, bear in mind, he makes pizzas. They're £9. Like, you can turn up, buy one, and it supports him and it goes to help him grow. Yeah. I think he has two people that help him out personally. I go, my family go, help people. I've pushed you to go just to help him grow. Yeah. And it's amazing how many people just go. Yeah. And you kind of get rid of the dead wood straight away. Which, again, on the flip side of that, what you were saying is you don't know the dead wood are there, and they want to be there when things are going great, and they quite quickly throw you aside when things are going bad.
Absolutely.
It's definitely character building, isn't it? All that you've gone through there with individuals giving you the dagger, and building that character. So how do you consume that information that's around you, i.e. people backstabbing you and things you might hear from others and telling you what to do next? How did that get you back into the mind frame of thinking, well, it is what it is, I've got to keep moving forward, right? Instead of take a step backwards and I'll get back to you, I'm going to get you again, because it can go another way, can't it, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's important not to descend into kind of bitterness, because they say acid corrodes the vessel, don't they? But bear in mind, I mean, although I'd lost Red Letter Days, I'd just been on Dragon's Den. Yeah. And so although that door had closed, the window had opened of the whole Dragon's Den fame. And I very quickly, off the back of it, started getting speaking engagements, and I got a book deal. And I was offered an advance to write a book because I'd just been on the telly and I was about to be in the second series. So it's like, write a book on anything you want. So I obviously couldn't write a book about how great I am and how I made it. So I wrote a book called Business Nightmares. hitting rock bottom and coming out on top. And it actually came out in May 2008. And obviously everything crashed in October 2008. Yep. So it's like I'd repositioned my brand. And again, the universe sending me this, like, just like going with that flow of like, okay, I've failed. Let's write about failure. Because most people only want to talk about success. But then there's a really fine line between success and failure. Because a lot of people were right on, like Donald Trump in the 90s. He was absolutely on the verge of bankruptcy and pulled back from it. So I wrote the stories of so many amazing people in that book, including Donald Trump, people like Ratner, Gerald Ratner? And so it wasn't just my story. It was really about the reality of being in business. Yeah. And so, of course, October 2008, everything crashed. And so I became like the person who knew how to cope. And so this mindset of how do you cope, I think gave me a new path, because so many people were asking for my help in business. And so that's how I really became a mentor, and really started devoting myself to inspiring, motivating and empowering others on their journey. The British Library invited me to be the entrepreneur in residence when Anita Roddick, this was a bizarre thing, Anita Roddick, my heroine, in the 70s and 80s, when she died, she was the entrepreneur in residence, and they invited me to step into her shoes. Wow. Yeah. And so I learnt my craft of mentoring, doing like 6 free mentoring sessions a month. I'd go up and I'd sit in this room they gave me, and the people just come in, and it's completely free. I did it for free, but it was such a great training of like learning. And then they gave me their like training rooms, so I started putting on workshops. And then people couldn't afford to come to the workshop, so I created online programs. So I just created a whole new business around mentoring and inspiring others, and created an online program called Business Alchemy for just £8, and just sold like thousands of those, and just developed a whole tribe of new fans and followers. So it's amazing how like you can morph, away from that into something else.
Yeah, I mean, well, to create winners, you need failures, don't you, to happen, to create a winner, I believe.
Yeah, well, this word failure, I mean,
it's lessons, it's just learning.
It's just learning. So there is this tendency for the false matrix to label and to smear. And I still get that I still get it when, people who want to like stab me a little bit, or like on YouTube or some of my videos I put out, oh, yeah, she's a failure. Just like, hold on, how many kind of like multi-million market-leading brands have you created in your life?
I love it.
And run successfly for like 16 years, and then and it was a corporate mugging, and then reinvented into something completely different, and then had success with that, and then moved on to something else. So it's like this word failure, this desire to label and smear. She's a this, he's a that. It's really actually very judgmental and actually quite nasty.
Absolutely. And I think it's only getting worse, isn't it? Especially with online, so many people judging and saying, oh, they think that, and I've always found, first they judge you, and then when you ignore that and you're carrying the growth, now they tell everyone that they know you. Right? And it's like, do you? And then again, when your back's on the wall and you might be failing again, they're back to, saying, oh, loser. And it's one of those. I say this to my partner Ruth, I tell her all the time. She goes, how can you deal with like all the negativism you might get online now as you're growing and all these things? And I say it's learning from people like what you've been through and others, and just saying the reality is, I'm dead, and all these things they're saying to me is my decision to say, right, is it going to take me off track to my greatness or where I believe I can be great? Or is it going to detach me from the person I am and go back to living the life they want me to lead, which is where they're stuck in their comfort zone, where they don't want to step out and do something about their own life?
This goes back to that same thing that I said right at the beginning, is that when you go into business, everyone secretly wants you to fail because it makes them feel better about their life. And this is the thing. So, so there's a sort of, is it called Schadenfreude about... Like there's a secret like joy in other people's downfall.
I see that. Yeah,
when someone's been successful, and then they fail. That there's this. Everyone's like, oh, Yes.
It's because they don't see the courage that they can do what you're trying to do. So
Yeah,
therefore,
but it's also like makes them feel better about their own life.
self-justification that
Yeah, because most
was
people
right.
have got like, oh yeah, I had that idea. Oh, so I had that idea for a business. I'm like, well, why didn't you do anything about it? Because like ideas are 10 a penny.
Yeah.
But to actually take an idea and actually to like a seed and to actually nurture it and like devote time and energy and like create and build something and like, and the devotion and the hours and the, you know, the dedication is huge. And not many people, most people's energy is like a firework, enthusiastic for like a little while. And it dies off.
Falls down,
You need to be a real marathon runner. You need to be able to keep going. Like in a marathon, I've never run a marathon, but I imagine there are points in a marathon when you just think, I can't.
what am I doing this for?
Do no more.
What am I
You
doing
have
this
to
for?
push through. You just have to keep pushing through. And so that's why I think if you're actually on your soul path and there's something about your business, just did a video called Acts of Devotion. When you're devoted to something, when you're, it's about way more than money or winning or anything like that. It's just like, feels like it's my sole purpose and this is my dream and my life force energy. That's the kind of like dedication you need to be able to push through whatever
No distraction.
problems.
Did anybody
come
help
up.
you with that then? Did anybody that was next to you when you were feeling a little bit down just pick you back up again? Like, it just takes me back. Wednesday I had a phone call with Paul. I've been ill last week. Business is hard to stay on top of when you're ill, trying to make sure things are getting done.
And
And he's just like, 365 days in a year. It's 2 days out of that 365 where that have not gone your way.
Yeah.
What about the others?
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. No worries. Day after, back on track.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think people quite realise how powerful they can be with just words of kindness. Because after that Tonight with Trevor McDonald show where I invited a friend of mine to come over and watch it with me, and she's like, oh no, I'm busy. And I found out later she'd watched it down the pub with her mates where they could have a good laugh about me. And, you know, so after that, and I watched it, and I hadn't energized it, so I wasn't featured, but it was just so, that was one of the lowest points of my life. But when I went and switched on my email, all of these messages of support were coming in, like, don't let the bastards grind you down. And people were sending me their stories of how they like either had the same thing happened or very similar or come close to the edge. And actually it was a lot of those emails of support that gave me the inspiration for the Business Nightmares book. But it was just these people, and most of them I didn't know. They were just like watching, just like, this is so unfair. Like, keep going. We love you, you know, don't give up. And it was, I actually posted a whole selection of them on my website with thanks, because, you know, it really does help. Well, like, even now I get like messages, letters of support, just little things, or people send me cards and just encouraging me if I've been annihilated by the media or something.
The opposite of what you said, though, isn't it? That some people want to see you fail for that gratification that they were right.
Yeah, so there are another whole group of people
that you don't know just want you to win.
Just motivated by love, really.
Yeah, and I want people to win, even in my own field. If you set up a business next door to me, I still want you to win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want you to lose. I want you to win, because there's enough out there for us all.
But most people aren't in that mindset.
No, and I think a lot of people are losing that connection, human connection.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand that AI is big. I use AI. I said it the other day on a podcast. I love AI for business. But when it comes to interaction and connection and human connection, that's lost. So it's very easy for someone to go online, and they're the kind of people I see, like you said, here at the pub, or I can't watch it, and they just went to the pub with their friends. They're the kind of people online who I see can easily press a button of like or love heart and share it on the story. But yet you never hear from them on the phone, or they never be in your house having a cup of tea talking to you in your down moments. Yeah. Like what Nick said, Nick knows, and I keep my circle very small. But anyone who gives me their time and I give them their time back, I'm literally there for them in that moment, in their highs, their lows. And I even say it to my clients. I mean, you know, I'm not going to say names. One of my clients the other day, he's going through a really hard time at the moment in his business. And that's due to a certain staff member. And it's affected his personal life. I said, look, put business aside. You ring me. We was on the phone for an hour. And he was literally, and I just let him pour it all out, because everyone else who wanted him not to do so well, like you said, and grow that business where he's got it to today, now he's going through a turbulent time, and his business isn't in the shit. He's easily going to get back up. Everything's all secure. He's overthought the process on team members, and it's really allowed him to have a negative effect on his life, which actually affected his time with his kids and with his partner. And it's having that connection and speaking to him, saying, listen, speak to me, talk to me, and literally understand I'm here to hold you hand and just listen to you. It's a big thing that I feel like's missing. I feel like people need to kind of understand using the circle, yes, but those that are in circle, I guarantee you, it's those that are actually connecting with you, not those that are just actioning things online and like put the odd comment. And so I think that's a big deal. Dragon's Den, Rachel, the original queen. You are the original queen, the first female in Dragon's Den. So talk us through that time at Dragon's Den. How was it, first and foremost? Like, how long were you filming for? Because it was brand new, so they didn't
come about.
Yeah, they didn't have an idea of it, etc. I know it came off the success of Red Letter Days, but did you go through an audition process? Like, how did it all come around, as Nick says?
Yeah, so in terms of how that manifested, I'd say there's two answers to that. Because I remember when I was young and like I was maybe 8 or 9, and there were only like two or three television channels back then, like BBC One, 2 and ITV. And I just remember saying to my grandma, like, and I was dancing along to, I don't know, one of these Saturday night specials. And I said to my grandma, one day I'm going to be on telly. And she's like, yes, dear, yes, dear. You know, it's like knitting away. So I kind of had planted that seed, you know, in childhood innocence, seeds planted when you're young and you're innocent are really powerful, you know, because the universe listens and it's like, okay, well, we've heard you and we'll like find a route. So, so the actual way that it came about was, and it's a funny story here that, in the sort of early 2000s, there were all these sort of reality shows coming up, like Changing Rooms and Ground Force.
Used to love Changing Rooms.
Yeah, and I just had this instinct, like I should be on television. I kind of re-emerged. And so my marketing guy said, well, let's get the PR people in to talk about it. So had this meeting, and I just remembered this guy saying to me, do you know how difficult it is to get on television? And I'm like, no, I don't know how difficult it is. You know, tell me. And he's like, oh, you're going to have to get an agent. You're going to have to do a film roll, camera roll or whatever, show reel.
Yeah.
And it just all sounded like such an impossible mountain to climb. I'm just like, well, we're really busy. So maybe just shelve it, you know, because if it's that difficult, I didn't know. I didn't know how difficult it was.
Was that person trying to put you off, do you think?
Well,
it very much sounds they were negative from the outset.
It was just that kind of cynical thing of like, you know, if you said, oh, I've got this idea, I want to climb Mount Everest, because I've always like I've seen these movies, and I want to climb Mount Everest. What do you think? She said, oh, it's going to be...
That's his perception.
That's his perception.
That's his perception.
You know,
what would
you're
happen?
going to need Sherpas. You're going to need training. You might fall off the edge and die. You know, it's all this kind of...
Cool, let's go for it.
Do you reckon it'd be different than on the other side? Let's say you do want to climb it. Perfect. We need to get Sherpas. We need to get this to make this happen for you.
Yeah, but anyway, but I mean, go back to the story. So I just shelved it, and then literally, like within a couple of weeks, one of my marketing team came into my office and said, I've just had an email in from the BBC. They're doing a new show called Dragon's Den, and they want to know if you want to be on it. And I'm like, yeah, bingo.
Yeah, so you don't need all that.
Where was it? So was it filmed down in London at the time? Is it still filmed in London, do you know?
Yeah, so they filmed it in like a warehouse in the East End. Yeah. And so the interesting thing about Dragon's Den is that we were part of the original creation of the concept, in that it had been a Japanese show, but they'd hired this director to the BBC had acquired the rights, but they wanted to adapt it for a Western audience.
Okay.
And so we were part of the creative process. So that was really interesting. Like, for example, they were going to put like tables in front of us, like on X Factor or something. And I'm just like, this feels really confrontational. It would be, actually, can we not remove the tables and just like have little side tables? And so like we were part of the creative concept. But
nice.
None of us knew. If you watch that first series, no one knew that it was going to be big. Yeah. And it has a rawness to it. It has like a really spontaneity and a credibility to it that every series since then has felt like it's a bit fake and a bit formulaic, because it had that edgy quality of something new that no one knew what was going to happen or, you know, how it was going to turn out. So there's something really magical about that first series. And then, of course, being on second series, suddenly all of the dragons arrived. They all had their teeth whitened. And, they were all kind of, and they rehearsed, like Peter Jones had got like Simon Cowell's PR guy, so he like was rehearsing like sound bites and like that kind of like that comment that would, because basically 95% of Dragon's Den ends up on the cutting room floor and only 5% gets used.
Yeah.
So there's a big temptation once you know that to be the person who's edited in, basically. Whereas that first series, none of us knew that. So it was just like, they just picked the cream of the crop. So the second series, Peter Jones is sitting there trying to work out like a killer line.
Soundbite, really, clickbait.
You don't have to see that in the background,
so it had a kind of fakery to it. And
but more entertainment than rather than what the concept was supposed to be about.
And that's the thing. And I think looking back, that's one of my biggest regrets about Dragon's Den, because I kind of realised that they were trying to create an archetype of ruthless business people, and it wasn't the truth, because they edited out all of this like helpful banter, all of that kind of joy, all of the support, all edited out in favour of the irritable comment, like
manufacturers, isn't it?
Yeah,
Sense.
and to make us make it seem like business is ruthless, heartless, hard, and you need to be like that. So I meet so many people now who try to be like that, and it's just like, no.
People can see through it though.
Well, the thing is, but I feel like, and I see youngsters growing up and going into business and thinking that's the way to be, and I feel actually quite bad that I was part of the contributing to that archetype, because it wasn't true, and that's not how business is,
But you say that, and I know you might feel bad for it, but when you're in an environment and you're getting it forced down your neck and there's cameras on you and it's new to you, you've got to think that environment was new to you. You didn't know how the TV world or what kind of work.
You can't control the edit.
Exactly. It's easy for you to fall into that. And then at the end, like we said there, then the edit comes out and you think, well, it is what it is. It's out now, right? I've signed off on it. It's done. But regarding the businesses that came in, tell us, what was the worst investment you made? Tell us openly. When you invested in somewhere, did you invest in a business?
I think all of my investments were pretty bad. And I think they were bad in the sense of I'd never done angel investment before, and I didn't quite appreciate how much time it would take, and also I didn't realise, and it's only now that I've trained in trauma healing. I did a 4-year professional training in trauma, and I now realise the persecutor, victim, rescuer dynamic. So a lot of people are looking for a rescuer. They're looking for like a white knight or someone to kind of give them that kind of like big magic cardboard wand, check and wave a magic wand and, oh, I've got Dragon funding now. I've always been on Dragon's Den. I won Dragon's Den. Like, where's my jackpot? And, and so there was a lot of that persecutor, victim, rescuer drama triangle going on where I was the rescuer. And I know this from mentoring. It's one thing to be very, I'm sure you are aware of this, that when people are looking for a mentor, they're quite often looking for someone to rescue them.
Absolutely.
And then when it doesn't go right, then they blame you. They quickly turn into the persecutor and you become the victim.
Thank you.
And then they'll look to other people to turn against you. They'll look for other rescuers and other people that, Paul advised him and he didn't do well. So now we're going to club together and we're going to, it's all that bullshit.
Yep.
And so that dynamic was one of the big things that I didn't appreciate. So I became like the big bad wolf that was the like dumping ground for everyone's problems. And so it
wasn't necessarily the business, was it? It's the entrepreneur knowing like how that business world actually works, because you touched it there and you're right. And again, not going to say names, but you've got different clientele who do really well, but they've got the same system, same options, same action taken that you're trying to motivate them to do. It's just they're not fucking doing it at times, right? More often than the others. And then you're right, they'll pin the blame on someone else rather than understand that it's yourself. You can be given the roadmap, you can be given the pathway, and I will still hold your hand shoulder to shoulder and help you to guide you there. But I can't be with you 24/7 a day to action things I'm asking you to do and create that mindset, strength, confidence, resilience to fucking do the work. Get the work done, do the basics really well, and everything will fall into place. So I'm glad you said that, because how many times do I say it?
Say it all the time.
I get frustrated,
Yeah,
don't I?
I mean, this is the thing I've learned about life, and that's through doing a lot of shamanic work as well, is like taking 100% responsibility for everything that is manifesting in your life, even like stuff that looks bad, because everything is a gift. Everything, without exception, is a gift, because it's either helping you or it's helping to heal you. So life is a healing journey, and business especially is a healing journey. So when I'm mentoring now, because I had done a lot of shamanic training, and I've done this trauma healing training, so I can see that people, their businesses, they're on a healing journey, and the business is helping them. So everything is a teaching.
And I think respect to mentors like ourselves, because people don't understand when you're a mentor, you'll see it isn't just the business side of things you're handling with. You're handling with personalities, and you're a counsellor in a sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
With I'm sure you have it as well, like where they lean on you and they're talking personal life, because that falls into their business life, and you have to kind of be that helping guidance. So what would you say makes a good mentor then? What would you say makes someone they're the kind of person for me, as well as business?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure mentor is a great word.
Coach, I like.
Because I don't even like the word coach, because I mean, mentor is like in the mind. So having done a lot of shamanic work, I now realize the value of really being in the heart, of being in the body, of feeling, fully feeling like what's going on. So developing your intuition. And I think it's especially important with AI, because you can feel what's fake. And so like on social media, like there's so many bots now. Yeah, and you can feel like this is a bit off, or like with video footage. I mean, I do a lot of, quite in the world of activism, and you can tell when like Boris Johnson was lying, because there's a resonance. Truth has a resonance, so there's a glitch in the matrix when people are not truthful. So developing that ability to intuitively work out what's going on behind the scenes, underneath the surface. So I'd say that is what makes a really good, I think, my one-to-ones are intuitive mentoring, because it's not, for me, it's not just about helping people make money. It's helping people to navigate and see what they're manifesting and see the gift in it. And when you get to that aha moment, it's like, oh my God, I realize why I'm manifesting that. Thank you so much. Then it doesn't have to manifest, and that block can be cleared, and then the flow can come through.
Totally agree. I think if you can build a great character, that's how I look in my mentoring, is that. So people always come to us, and we do all their marketing, sales operations, even help manage their team if they have staff and lead them. My approach is the money will always come if you just find who it is yourself as a character, and you can build those great traits. And if you get that right, and I can get that out from you and give you the confidence to believe that actually you are great at what you do, then I guarantee you everything else around your life, even forget business, will just fall into place, and you'll be in a much better space, and both positive,
absolutely.
mentally and physically at the same time.
And it's so effortless. That's the thing, is like when you get into that flow, magic shows up, invitations, money, contracts. It's just like, the universe is like pouring things. But if it's not flowing and there's a block, equally the universe is wanting you to like get conscious awareness of the blocks, because in the shadow there's so many things that are calling to be healed or cleared, or traumas, these blocks. So it's not about getting into flow so much as clearing the blocks to flow. That's my experience of it.
That's the individual people that you come across with. When I first started with working with Paul, it wasn't, that doesn't work. I'm very much willing to give things a go and find out what things do actually work and what don't. But it was never a question of what he was telling me was wrong. It's what am I doing different that other people are, that's where am I going wrong, basically? Because everybody's quick to point fingers elsewhere instead of here.
Yeah.
Like you've seen it a lot, like you've mentioned there. The same system, same process with two different people will go two different pathways.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's one person that will question the pathway of why am I going down that track and not that track? What can I do different to make sure that I go on the right trajectory instead of the wrong one? Whereas the other person will go, that doesn't work, find another person. That doesn't work, find another person.
Yeah.
It becomes a yo-yo.
Yeah, again, do you find I know you say you don't like the word mentoring, I'm trying to figure out another word to say, but What do you do with people that don't question themselves? Because people have got to question themselves to get the best out of themselves, as well as you question. What do you do?
I think that the more that I'm aligned to the truth of who I am, the more I naturally attract clients that are a match to it. So I don't actually kind of have like those kind of clients anymore, because I just don't attract them, because I think people resonate, they're attracted to you because they resonate with you. So it's, to me, it's a two-way flow with a client, because whenever someone presents to me and they book a session or whatever, there's always a mirror for me. I find this nowadays, like I find myself kind of spouting wisdom to someone, and it's like I'm talking to myself. I'm like, oh my God, that was like that. That person manifested as a mirror, and you were giving them the wisdom, and exactly what you said to that person is what you need to do for yourself.
I've that way before.
So like life becomes a mirror, and it's very interesting. But then I have done a lot of shamanic work and a lot of like plant medicine and ayahuasca, so I kind of see through the veil, the illusion.
Remember our conversations at my house about that?
Yeah, but the ayahuasca, and that came with it.
Have you experienced it?
No, we've not. We've got some friends that we had a night of mine that were mentioning what they've been through and their previous traumas, and they've gone through it and how it had helped them.
A lot of guys are opening to that now, and some of these really cool dudes like Joe Rogan and Marcus Aubrey and Charles Eisenstein. I mean, you see its influence, like for example in California, like in movies, and so many people are opening to the medicines, because they are master. They're not only great healers, but they're also master teachers, and they're visionary. So like they will help you download the most incredible. It's a real fast track route to both healing and like spectacular, exponential quantum leaps in every area of your life, actually. So I talk about
I'm
an advocate of this. You can tell.
It's the fear, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I was going to say that.
It
is. There's two types of people there, isn't there, when it comes to all this kind of stuff with the medicine and the ayahuasca stuff, and like DMT were brought up on it in conversation, like Joe Rogan talks about. And I was saying to the lads, we were a poker night, wasn't it? And all them were all for it. And I said, I'm not against it in the sense of that your beliefs of it. And I'm saying that's same when it even comes to religion. So my family, they're religious. Kind of see it the same way, whereas whatever their beliefs are is what their beliefs are. Yeah. And I said, I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm saying for me, the fear is, and I said this and that, the fear is because of the trajectory I'm on in my life and I've never felt like I've had to take something to get me out of space to try and find who, but that's only me. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm in control of whether I win or lose. But even no matter what situation I'm in, if it's a loss and I'm in my down moments, I've got the character, I believe, myself to actually pull myself back up and be great again and say, no, you keep moving forward. Do you know what I mean? So I'm in that kind of space.
You see, this is the truth, is in truth, we are not in control.
That's the same answer I forget who said it to me on the day.
You learn the art of surrender through medicine. And, it's not a drug, it's a master plant teacher. You're dealing with it's an access, it's a gateway to infinite intelligence. And so that's the thing, when you are trying to control life and business, and you can get so far and you can be very efficient at it. But when you actually hand over to like infinite intelligence, all those times in your life or my life where just like handing it over now, like that, because it can work out beyond your wildest dreams. Like it can deliver the most incredible magic. So it goes way beyond what you could potentially do yourself, if just by controlling and trying to work it all out for yourself in your mind and strategically. So there's something that is just like,
I think that's a battle especially in my head. Is it a positive thing or a negative thing? This is the way I think, to fear the unknown. That's because you don't know what, obviously.
There's only two states really. There's fear and love. So fear is a contraction and love is an expansion. Yeah. And so the whole of the false matrix is based on fear. And there's a lot of fear built into the system. Like, we've got to keep you safe. Oh, there's another pandemic on the way. Fear, fear, fear. You're not safe. There's not enough. There's scarcity. There's not enough to go round. There's not enough. Oh, the planet's going to end, blah, blah, blah. But when you move into that space of infinite, like, it's infinite. There is no time, space in truth. We're eternal beings, and that, like, there is no death. Like, we'll keep incarnating back, and so it's completely changes your whole perspective. So then you said, like, life's a game. There's a great metaphysical book, isn't there? The Game of Life and How to Play It. I don't know if you read that, by Florence Scovel Shinn. It's one of the earliest metaphysical teachers. The Game of Life and How to Play It. So she starts it by saying, most people think that life is a battle to be won, but I'm here to tell you that life is a game. And once you learn the metaphysical laws of how to play the game, it's like you can manifest anything. So it's, you know,
and that's why that when it comes down to the medicine side of things and you know, all these beliefs that everyone has, my biggest belief is that it's the higher power, the energy, whatever I put out there, whether people call it God or whatever, I just call it the energy. If I put out good energy, it comes back and it will align me to where I need to be.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's a funny one. I'm very honest out and open. Like, if someone talks about it, I don't agree, just agree with them, do I? It's like, I'm like, I see what you're saying, guys. I see Joe Rogan and all these people talk about it, and I've never heard anyone, to be honest, say they've done like DMT or any of these kind of things and it's not worked out better for them. So, you know, everyone I've seen has had a positive experience with it in some way or the other.
Most people look at you like you're on some type of
drug
anyway,
I
think that's where that comes in.
I think it's my kids. I don't know what it is. I think like I said, my fear was always wanting to, I don't want to go into it, my rejection in football, and then I never wanted to be rejected again, all this stuff. And I think mine just comes from the stem of knowing who I am now. Do you know what I mean? At this moment, and things are going to change. In another 10, 20 years, I'll be on a podcast saying, this is the greatest thing I've ever done, this medicine. But as I am right now, I believe if you know your truth and you're true to who you are and yourself, then, and if you understand that it is just a game that we are playing, everything else that we overthink and the media throws in your fucking face trying to throw fear at you, like you were saying, switch off. Don't look at it. Don't watch the news. Don't listen to the radio. There's something I do with my kids in the car. My missus will back me up here. We're in the car the other week and the radio came on, and the first thing was so negative about someone getting murdered, a young woman. I always turn that news off. I'm not letting my kids being conditioned by what they're trying to tell my kids, to not allow them be still free and have that kid energy and that childlike mentality to believe there's something more. And I think if we can hold that same kind of feelings and emotions that we did as a child when we were free, as an adult, I think life's so much better. And I think you'll achieve much more in your life, and you'll attract those kind of people in your life that actually still feel the same benefits of being better, living better. And if it's money you're chasing, life, freedom, whatever, all of that falls into place, believe it or not, just by that feeling you've got here. And if you put it out there, it attracts. They say if you're looking for trouble, you'll find trouble, right? So I say, well, look, reverse it. If you're looking for good, you're going to find good.
Yeah, focus on what you do want.
Exactly. I want to go, and I know we're flipping back again here, but I wanted to ask this question I said to you earlier. I want to know secrets about Dragon's Den, right? I know we're going back. Like, what are secrets that us viewers might not know about Dragon's Den? What's this something that, like, goes on backstage when the cameras are off or anything? Can you give us something, some kind of...
I mean, there are lots of stories I could talk about, but I am hesitant because I think my fellow dragons are quite litigious, and you know, it's kind of a period of my life which is kind of like done and dusted. I mean, it's 20 years ago now.
I can believe it. So fast, isn't it?
Yeah, some things are best left in Vegas or whatever.
I guess, so even saying that then, I've heard that when they come into the room, they're there for like an hour and a half, aren't they? Like, obviously it's an edit for TV.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, some of those things, it makes it look like they come in and we basically say, you know, fuck off. Crap. And everyone gets at least an hour, you know. Yeah. But as I said, all of the interesting stuff is cut in favour of just the throwaway line.
You don't see the grind in the background of being there for 8-9 hours.
And they deliberately make it difficult. Like, you've got to kind of got the steps, and you're nervous, and you know, and you're probably maybe holding some props or something, and so and this is the thing, is like we thought that it was a business show, you know, like a proper business show, but actually it's factual entertainment. So it's entertainment, and so they, you know, that it is car crash TV in a way. From a viewer then who's watched it, I've always questioned this part. If you invest in someone's business, do you actually invest your own money, or is it supplemented as well? No, it's
So
your
it's
own,
all,
it's
so
your
you're
own
literally
money.
putting your
Yeah.
business on the line for somebody else's business who wants to film it.
Well, you're putting your money on the line. But that's the thing that I said earlier is like, there's that sense of like, oh, I've like won a TV
Jackpot,
quiz
yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Where's my check? And it's like, it's my money. And I said, no, it's not your money. It's our money and it's our business now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just remember, I won't say who, but just like, I want you to buy me a car. And I'm like, but you don't have any sales and there's nothing to do. It was a van, actually. I want you to buy me a van. You don't have any sales. There's nothing to deliver. You know, I mean,
I don't know how it works.
you don't need a van. Like usually you would buy a van in a business after you're bursting at the seams and you're using other delivery companies and you're now bursting at the seams. It makes economies of scale to buy a van, right? So there was that sense of, as I said, like it's a bit of a handout and, you know, I want my money and I want to be able to spend it. And I think that's one of the naive things about funding. And
Was there any positives from it then?
well, you know, positive for me was that it did make me
Building
famous,
etc. Yeah.
you know, sort of not necessarily A-list famous, but it does transform your life when, I mean, my personal brand became more high profile than the Red Letter Days brand that I'd spent 16 years building up. And it did open a huge amount of like doors and opportunities for me, even now. So it's a double-edged sword. So there's one side to being a dragon, where you're still an archetype in people's minds, you're still a ruthless capitalist. But on the other side, you've got, you know, I'm sitting here, probably wouldn't be if I just sort of had a little local business, you know.
Tell us about all those experiences we've gone through here today and everything that's built the character you are and all those, you know, wins, losses, challenges. We're now in a situation where Rachel decides to go down the politics route, right? And part of the love movement. So tell us about that love movement. Like, what is the movement and how did that come around? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, it really was rooted in speaking out because I could see with the whole in 2020 with the whole COVID nonsense and the whole lockdown thing, I could see the devastation that was causing to small businesses with this insanity of like barriers and one-way things and gel your hands and everyone and all the tables have got to be 2 meters apart and I could see that it was devastating small business. And so I started like thinking, this is something very, very wrong here. So as I said, there was something dissonant and there was something there was something badly wrong. And then I read The Great Reset by Klaus Schwab and the penny dropped because I'd been in the corporate world and I read it and I'm like, oh my God, this is a corporate global hostile takeover bid. That's what this is. It didn't take much to piece it together because you can't see it now. They've covered it up. But back then when I researched who are the strategic partners of the World Economic Forum, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Google, Facebook, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Reuters. So these are the strategic partners. So you know that if you've got strategic partners, there's a strategy. Yep. So you read The Great Reset. I knew from reading that book, it read like a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Yeah. I knew that there was an action plan, an implementation plan, but it wasn't in the book. I knew there was another book. There was an operating manual. Yeah. So all of these countries were operating in lockstep to implement pretty much identical legislation, pretty much the same strategy. Yeah. Everyone did the whole thing globally. How did they manage to do that? So it didn't take much research to realize what was going on. Then you realize that all of these political leaders were out of the Young Leaders Program, the World Economic Forum, like Justin Trudeau, Jacinda Ardern, Macron in France. They'd all been trained by the World Economic Forum. So, and it takes, and I know this from politics, and if you look at what Marianne Williamson's doing in America at the moment, trying to get the nomination to run for president for the Democrats, that it takes a huge amount of money to win an election. So as an independent candidate, you literally, you're absolutely dependent on word of mouth and what you can muster through your own resources or crowdfunding, So, and they learn through, if you've, I forget what it's called on Netflix. I think it's called The Great Hack. I don't know if you ever saw that series about how they learned how to manipulate the algorithms on Facebook, and that's how they won Brexit, to get to influence people. So the combination
for the
of
votes.
propaganda and it was called The Great Hack, and that was a real eye opener. So they'd learned how to win elections basically. And Dominic Cummings and Brexit was the test bed for that, and then that's been rolled out globally. So I could just really see the corruption, and so it really started with me speaking out. And of course, that first video I did, it was called Rachel Speaks Out. It was just like a 27-minute rant. It got 250,000 views, went viral, and then it was deleted. It was removed by both YouTube and Facebook, as I call them. So it's just like, hold on a minute, I'm speaking my truth, and they're trying to silence me. So that was what I thought, right, I have to, and
Forgive me if I'm wrong here then. I know, did I read right that you and a group of people set up your own space through COVID? Didn't you buy some land?
Oh, yeah. That's sort of later on in the story. So originally with the whole COVID thing, I started creating a local community group, because the original rules were that you could have a local community support group of up to 30 people, I think it was. And that was within the rules. But then I started doing a stand in the park. That's a huge movement globally. Like in lockdown, if you couldn't meet with people, you go and stand in the park. You know, and we still do that on a Sunday morning in Bakewell. At 10 a.m. every Sunday morning in Bakewell. And that's like an act of devotion. So I started attracting lots of people from the freedom movement, and then I attracted a partner who was actually living pretty much off-grid, totally into common law, taught me a lot about common law principles. And so I started to really go down that rabbit hole of like realizing this whole system is a complete and utter like manufactured illusion of command control and conditioning. And so I kind of made it my business to really kind of look behind what's holding up the false matrix.
Was you scared of speaking out at one point? Did you ever think about the consequences that could happen if you spoke out? Because during that time, and obviously the majority, and even probably some people still today, you know, everyone is conditioned in a way, like you said, and that's why I turn off the radio, etc., like we said earlier. But was you nervous of any consequence that could come back to you at that early stage of speaking out so early?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, are you motivated through love or through fear? So you know, this is the thing, and the system does use fear all the time. Fear of getting arrested, fear of losing your livelihood, fear of, you know, going under financially. So these are the tools of the false matrix: money, debt, the police, law. It's not even law, it's legal legislation. So the minute you start understanding that actually as a sovereign being, as a free woman of the land, that provided you cause no harm, injury or loss to your fellow man and woman, literally you are in common law free to do whatever you want. And that's like whoa, you know. So, like, for example, simple things like all these cameras, speed cameras, ANPR, like all the time, like spitting out bus lane fine tickets and speeding tickets. It's like, hold on a minute. We, the people, own the public highways. So no one has the right to say, oh, I'm going to charge you like ULEZ, or, you know, I'll put a bus lane here so you can't drive in it, and if you do, I'm going to fine you like 35 quid. It's a complete money-making scam. So when you start peeling the layers back and you start challenging these things, like everything, I challenge everything now. Everything. You know, like...
It takes me back to a lot of conversations I've had in clinic with one client of mine. He's very much along the same lines.
Yeah, but it's very liberating.
He sends me videos all the time. He says, as soon as you are born, your birth certificate is
a
number,
business.
It's
well, that's the thing.
it's a business.
Straw man entity. And so so it really alters your perception of life, and then the way that you live life. So for me, I mean, I know that it's cost me money, hard cash, to do what I've done, because, you know, I used to do a lot of corporate speaking gigs. No one will touch me now, like if I'm a big corporation, because I'm speaking out against big corporations. And they have got a lot of power, and they've managed to silence so many people. like all of the scientists and doctors, most of all of these places like Imperial College, they're all funded by like Bill and Melinda Gates. You're going to speak out against them and risk losing your funding?
The thing is,
or being silenced and like thrown out of your profession?
I think this is where, and this is what I respect about what you're doing here, is that, and a lot of people who speak out, is people are so nervous to speak out, but yet they back it up with facts. Yeah. So this is the thing, it's all right speaking out, but if you've got the facts as well alongside that, what harm is it doing than just speaking your own truth? You're not trying to condition everyone to say, listen, what's happening. You're just speaking your truth, and if someone is to listen, then they should listen.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the problem. And I do feel like there's this cancel culture now, isn't there, stuff, and all these kind of things. And
also this tendency of like, we better be careful what we say, because if this is going out on YouTube, like they're going to delete it, and then I won't get so many views. So let's just moderate it, and so then you get a dumbing down of truth, and like people are just like being careful, and that's why I'm not on Facebook anymore, because you know it's not a truth, it's not a platform for truth. I can't be on a platform where I can't speak my truth. I'm happy for you to edit out all these bits if you feel that you need to.
No, this is the raw part of it.
Yeah, we want you to speak your truth.
Yeah. But you know, I am very passionate about truth and freedom. Yeah. And so there's a whole group of us, and then there was a call from the Freedom Alliance political party, like, we want candidates. I was like, okay, I'll stand in my area, and I got involved in that, and quickly kind of realized that there was some fundamental kind of challenges with this organization. And then a small group of us said, let's do something that is a bit more, that isn't just pure politics, that is much more heart-centered. And so it was a group of 3 women, and Lynn, who is our leader, although we don't technically have a leader, but she is our leader, and we were trying to think of a name. She said, how about an acronym? How about Liberation, Opportunity, Vitality, Empowerment?
Okay.
And I'm like, love. Yeah. Great. Brilliant. It was just, that's the perfect name. And so we went down the route of trying to get electoral commission registration for our party. You would not believe how difficult it is to get a political party registration. Also, bank accounts. No one will give you a bank account. We, in the end, set it up as a company behind this political party. That was the idea, to get a bank account, closed it down. Lynn then opened a personal bank account, they closed it down. Wow. So it's so stacked. And it's not until you go into these worlds that you realise the levels of control. Yeah. They do not want anyone standing up, speaking out. It's interesting, I was listening on the way here that George Galloway has just won Rochdale.
Yeah.
And the second guy was not Conservative, was an independent, a local businessman. So people are waking up, and people are actually realising that Conservative and Labour, they're both wings of the same vulture. Yeah. They're all affiliated to the World Economic Forum, and they're all run by big corporations.
And I think if people give the time and listen to you and what you're trying to say, that's when the difference will come round. Because like I said, is the things that you're saying, you're coming from a point of love, right? It is. It's just being honest and open. And I think what you are doing, I commend you, because I think there's many people out there who don't want to speak their truth because of consequences. But what consequences? Like in reality of what else is these worst things that we don't see and don't hear about that have gone in the background, but just because we're the ones that speak up, we have to put ourselves in the firing line to do so, you know.
But people aren't aware of the level of behavioural psychology and psychological operations. It's like MK Ultra grade, like psyop of the in media and communications. It's all completely owned by big corporations, and so I've been extensively smeared. Because they need to destroy anyone who speaks out, you know. So, and there's a thing called mass formation psychosis. I don't know if you've heard of this. Matthias Desmet talks about it, where it only takes one person to speak out to weaken something. Yeah. They've done it in experiments. Like, for example, if you're sitting they did an experiment where they had everyone sitting in a waiting room, and they had, like, most of them were actors, and they had one girl had come for a meeting, and suddenly all of the actors all stood up, and so this girl stood up too. So basically there's this mass formation psychosis, like people want to do the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
So all of these actors, she obviously thought they were normal people. They all stood up, and she's, I should be standing up. So, but it only took one person to, and when they did the experiment again, it only took one other person to remain seated, to give that person the confidence to remain seated too, you know. So there's all sorts of psychological experiments, and it only takes one person speaking out to really weaken, which is why they had to silence. I mean, I could go on about this.
Where could people find you if they want to speak to you about this love movement? Where can they find it online? I know you've got Rachel Speaks Out on YouTube.
Yeah, so we basically we just, in the end, we gave up on the Electoral Commission, so we all running as independents. So So actually, and I was inspired to actually change my name to Rachel Elnaugh Love, because I thought if they're not going to allow me to run under the party Love, then I'll just include it in my name. So next thing I know, I've got police knocking on my door saying you've committed election fraud. So it's like, this is the level that I'm dealing with now.
Wow.
So it just goes to show that, you know, they do not want anyone to speak out.
Disrupt.
They're completely trying to keep a lid on everything. And even yesterday, Rishi Sunak talking about the mob rule. It isn't mob rule, it's the people. The people, if they can't get their way through, you know, their elected officials on things like Gaza and Palestine, which is genocide, you know, if your MP won't respond, and you've even got, like, in the Houses of Parliament, a debate being derailed, people are just they're going to do peaceful protests. And it's not a mob, it's the people, because these politicians, they're public servants, they're representatives of the people, and the system's broken. That's why a lot of people aren't bothering to vote anymore. That's why George Galloway got in Rochdale.
This is what I've spoke to about my dad with. He always be like, I vote this way, I vote this way. It's like, which way do you vote? You either, it doesn't matter what box you tick. Where I'll quite openly say, through Brexit, I didn't know which way to vote, because they're both spouting things that they can't do. Both spouting things that and they're not going to follow through with. So whichever box you tick there, for me, there's only a negative outcome
always a lot
for
of
me.
False promises, isn't there?
There's going to be a negative outcome for me going forward. So how do you?
I mean, if you just look at the Conservatives, they got in 2019. Everything that they've done, which bits of that were in their prospectus? But the minute that they got in, the minute Boris Johnson got elected, they pressed the button on COVID.
Yeah, it was all NHS, wasn't it? So much
completely
for the NHS.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. It's like, do you remember his election campaign was like, we're going to have 10,000 more nurses, we're going to have 10,000 more policemen. Did anyone say, well, why do we need so many more nurses and policemen, and why are there so many sick people, and why do we need extra police for? So they were they're constantly seeding the public. It's a psyop to make you believe, you know, like, no one actually says, hold on a minute, why are there so many ill people? Or why are so many people committing crime? You know, these are the bigger questions of our time. And that's why I'm passionate.
How deep does the rabbit hole go?
I know. So that's why I am standing for politics, just as a pattern interrupt, just to use it as a voice for actually questioning.
Break the mold.
Yeah, questioning. And I think a lot of people are doing that now.
But this is why you're here, and this is why we've done this podcast, and this is why Greatness on Demand actually goes hand in hand. What you've done there is your greatness, and for you to see, you know, in order for you to be great, is speaking out. It's your character. It's not holding back, you know. And as much as we've spoken about business there earlier and challenging the highs and lows, just you as a person, you're oozing that greatness that you can see because of your truth of who you are. And I think that's, like we said earlier, that's what I believe makes someone great. It's speaking their truth. It isn't the trophies. It isn't the money in the bank.
Yeah.
It's speaking their truth. It's, you know, being able to openly and honestly have that resilience, all these things that come with it, but it is speaking that truth and knowing who you are as a person and holding on to that.
Yeah, and I just want to say this for the viewers, is like, to be aware, if we're not all already aware, that there's a great awakening of consciousness happening right now. So this corporate digital transhumanist AI thing, that's happening, but there's also a huge awakening of consciousness and spirituality. And I do believe that the people who are aligned to their heart, to their truth, to their soul purpose, You know, those are the ones that are going to succeed going forward. You know, so it is, if things aren't working in your life or your business is not bringing you joy, then have the courage to take that leap of faith and do what is your heart's desire, and trust that all of the people and resources are going to show up to catch you. I mean, my son's a classic. He was doing a marketing degree at Leeds University, hating it. He didn't get his grant funding. This was tuition funding, which is a huge amount of money at the time. I couldn't help him. And I just said, "Are you enjoying it?" He said, "No, Mum, but I feel I need to get a degree to get on in life." And I said, "Well, what would you love to do?" He said, "I want to do music. I love music." He's mixed race. His dad's Jamaican. He's just like a brilliant musician. And I said, "Well, why don't you do that?" And he said, "But there's no money in music, Mum." And I'm like, "Well, try telling that to, I don't know, Barry Manilow."
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
You know, Bob Marley or... And so he just took that leap of faith, and he is now a traveling shamanic musician going around the world in massive demand, just living the life of Riley. He's in Sri Lanka at the moment on fully expenses
crazy, that
paid like thing, just playing music and just doing what he loves. And it's just everything is showing up.
He's doing the thing that I'm striving for, which is freedom to travel and experience. But now I look at it that way. I'm not saying I'm doing it the hard way.
Yeah.
I'm doing it the way that I'm trying to build business to run itself, so I can take myself out to do this. Whereas it sounds very much with that, hey, he's just, all right, I'll do it.
This is the classic business mentoring question, isn't it? So it's like, why are you doing this business? Well, if I do this business and I build it and I make it and then I sell it, and then I can like create this sort of philanthropic charity. I said, well, why don't you just do that now? Just go straight to the elephant. Oh, but I need it. No, like focus on your heart's desire and go straight to the elephant, because you know, otherwise you're just you've kind of playing into the game, like in that mental, like I need to do and then when I got a big pile of money, and then I'll do what I love when I'm in 20 years time. But no, do it now. And trust, because if it's your soul path, if it's your soul purpose, the universe will send you blessings, money, invitations. I mean, this happens to MJ the whole time. He's just like, people just give him like £1,000 cash and say, I hear you're like wanting to kind of do a course with the shamans. And here, take £1,000. And it's just like...
And he's not searched for it. And if it had searched for it, he never found it.
Exactly. It just literally shows up. He sets intentions. So this power of the imagination, the power of visioning, intention setting, prayer. Don't underestimate how powerful all of that. You don't need to know the detail. The universe, if you've got a strong vision and intention, like daydreaming, like visioning it into being, doing vision boards, like just daydreaming, literally the universe will send you the most. And just all you have to do is say yes, show up, and trust.
And I recommend getting a book. So I've got a blank book, and if you're watching, when you watch this, I recommend everyone does this. I call it the Book of Quantum. So in that book, I already write about things that haven't happened yet, because I always say it's already happened, time just hasn't caught up.
Yes.
So I write about everything that has happened and that's going to happen and that's coming. So an example would be before, when my little boy was born, Brock, we've now got a little beautiful girl, the beautifulest girl in the world, Maya, who turns 2 soon. I already wrote in that book, way before Rue fell pregnant, that we'd have a little girl. She'd be called Maya. She'd be born in July, in that date of the year. And I wrote that 2 years previously.
Yeah.
And it happened. And then I've wrote other things in my business, what I wanted to happen. It's happened months previously. And I wasn't a believer of it until I saw someone. I can't remember who I saw, we were talking about it. And I just fell into that trap of doing it and believing it. And you're absolutely right. Like, it does fall into place, but you've got to have that utmost belief, not that fake belief where you just say it. You've got to believe it in the sense of,
it's like
there's a fire. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but there's a physical feeling that comes across. And you feel this, and this energy comes in and it falls into these things. Like us doing a podcast now with these things, like my mum, my dad, and everyone around me say, "What crazy idea you're doing now, Paul?" Right? Because they know that. But it's just a feeling I've got to do this, and this is like when I reached out to you and you coming onto this podcast, and thank you for that again. Is that it comes from us having that connection when we first met, when you came to our first event. And you can tell when people are, you know, when you're on that same wavelength of that, which I believe we are in terms of what we believe and everything that comes with it, things fall into place where the connections come, and you don't look at life as hard anymore, because like I said again, you're speaking your truth for what it is, and that is what above God, if you want to call it the higher power, whatever it is, what kind of energy, does make the biggest difference. So look, I want to say again, thank you for coming on. I want to wrap this up with some quick fire questions if you don't mind. So have it fun, keep it fun and light. It's been amazing. You've done such a journey, Rachel. Like, this is why, another reason why we said I wanted to do the podcast and reach out to Nick. It's a counselling session for me. I said, I just want to get some amazing people, give us the platform, them the platform, and just speak their truth in everything they've done in life, which is amazing. So honestly, thank you for coming down and being with us. So really fun, quick fire questions, right? Light questions. If you could invite 3 guests, dead or alive, to a dinner party, who are those 3 guests? Who does Rachel want to be sitting at the dinner table with?
Definitely Jesus would be on there.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking Vladimir Putin.
Okay,
that's interesting.
It's interesting. Jesus, Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, because he was just on Tucker Carlson, and like he's an interesting character. And I think probably Marianne Williamson as well. I'm really admiring what she's doing at the moment.
I'll be the butler.
That would be an interesting dinner party. Wouldn't
Get
it?
that as the thumbnail on
chef.
YouTube. We'll do it as the term where Jesus and the Jew and Rachel's on there. Number 1, most impactful moment in your life.
Oh my goodness, probably giving birth. But I would say actually, the other impactful moment was my first medicine journey, where I burst through the veil, and Krishna was like dancing in the sky, like with this 1,000,000 volts of energy, like pure diamond energy, and it was just like, wow. And I realized in that moment what lies beyond this reality, and that was just like, that was pretty awesome, like transformational moment. Yeah.
Biggest lesson learned in your life?
Biggest lesson is like, it's all good. Like everything is a gift, and that can be difficult at the time, because we're so trained to judge and sort everything into good, bad, right, wrong. But actually, everything is a gift.
And wrapping this up, we ask everyone this final question on our podcast: is greatness on demand takes us on a journey to become great, find our inner greatness. Knowing the journey you've been on, the challenges, the wins, everything, what advice would you give to our listeners, whether they're in business, whether they're not in business? That would be great advice that they can take away, that they can actually fulfill to find who they are and achieve their inner greatness. What advice would you give?
Gosh, that's a big question. A big one for me has been say yes, show up, and trust. Because your mind's trying to work out, is it worth it? Is it worth getting in the car, coming to Wakefield? And there's a lot of time out of my diary. You know, it's just like, no, say yes, show up, trust that everything is, someone might be watching this and,
I've already taken my biggest takeaway, which is kind of what you've said there with I spoke about the fear of the unknown. Yeah. Like my mindset shift now is just love the unknown.
Yeah.
I've got tattoos on my arm of space because it's the unknown that is... nobody knows what's out there. Well, maybe some people do. So I always looked at it. I love to fear the unknown, and I'll just take the fear out. So loving the unknown and letting things.
Yeah, well, love's a good word, isn't it? Actually, just being in that resonance of love. That is, what lies beyond the veil is just that pure love energy, just pure resonance of just pure love. It's so all of this illusion, it's. If you keep that realization that it's all a dream, but beyond it is just pure love, pure source energy.
Rachel, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Much.
It's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
That was
inviting me.
amazing.